Hello. I can't tell you how many times I was approached with a question. I need to learn some opening quickly because I have a game tomorrow, a game in a couple of days, and I want to learn some new opening quickly. And this is a question will be coming normally from person who does not have opening repertoire and who does not know the value of good opening preparation. Well, but if that happens, we know that average player, chess player, in general, unless we're talking about professional chess player, is a lazy, very lazy person. So a lot of players, not some, do not have that opening repertoire set. So they have to learn opening quickly. Now, why would someone spend a lot of time on learning openings deeply if you can learn it overnight, quickly? There is a big difference. When you need to learn opening very quickly on some variation, so obviously you are not going to know this very deep. So you are avoiding all kinds of complications because complications need time to be prepared for, analyzed. So obviously if you want to learn it overnight, you don't have this time for it. So then you're giving up in some advantages of this position. But suppose you are facing this problem and you need to solve it right away. Let's look at few examples. How do you approach to this problem? Well, the example 1, Ruy Lopez, e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. This I'm talking about approach for white. And here, normal move and most common move is a6 for black. But there are different continuations such as d6, bishop c5, f5, very sharp variation, knight d4, and person who really wants to get very ambitious and get certain opening advantage has to be well prepared for all those continuations. Now we're going to talk about these people an ambitious approach on the other tape, but right now we are talking about some easy way out of the opening to have comfortable position and to stay away from all kinds of trouble. On a6, the first and simple way to play this position is bishop takes knight, bishop takes c6, and after d takes c6, simply to go d3. Now, playing this way, you forfeited your rights for getting opening advantage. So now you are not in any kind of danger and you are not going to be for some time, but so is black. Now you're playing white and you didn't get advantage. So you lost the privilege of the first move. Well, if you play like this, so you got out of the opening, that's okay approach. It's if your opening knowledge is very poor. On the other hand, if you go bishop a4, your opponent goes knight f6. Now, second case, you castle. This is the most recommended move. And here, your opponent has more options than normal bishop e7 move. If they play bishop e7, well, you don't have to know much about this opening to play rook e1, followed by c3, and followed by d4. But what happens now is your opponent plays knight takes e4, so-called opening variation of Ruy Lopez. Now, in order to get some kind of an advantage here, you have to know a lot of theory, you have to follow theory, and you have your own analysis in it, and you have to fill the position correctly. Now, and if you are not, you have to find your way around. What is the easy way to get comfortable position? Obviously, you are not gonna have any advantage, but get your pawn back and be on the safe side. So you can go simply rook to e1, and now you should expect your opponent to play knight c5, and then you're gonna play knight takes e5, knight takes e5, rook takes e5 check, and bishop e7. So here we are with equal material and equal position. Well, you probably should go bishop b3, and black can take on b3, pawn takes, and black castles. Both sides are out of danger, and again, this is easy way out. So you should look for approach. The approach you should look for is like easy way out of it. That's not the way I would ever recommend to play any kind of opening. But if you have to, my way to recommend is to do extensive analysis, a great preparation, but in case you get you don't have this preparation and you just want to start a game from middle game, and most of the time it's going to be equal middle game or inferior, you should not count on any kind of advantage. So let's look at few other ways to approach the opening. Okay, let's look at the same Ruy Lopez, and we will look at f5 move. Now this is a very sharp variation for black. Now if white plays correctly, they're gonna get certain advantage. But in order to play correctly, you have to know the best moves, and you have to know the best moves in main variation and in any sub-variation. That's what you call intelligent approach to the opening and a good opening preparation. And again, you don't have it. What do we do here? There are two ways to play this opening after f5, two ways to look at it. One way, we can learn only one variation where white sacrifices a minor piece and position gets very sharp. But we talked about those kind of positions where you go to sharp those kind of players who want to go to sharp position no matter what the cost is, and cost sometimes may be very high. So you go to very sharp position or very quiet position, or you play the best move in the position. Okay, here is what we're talking about. d4 is the sharpest move in this position. Why? What happens after d4? Pawn takes on e4 for black. White plays knight takes e5. Black plays knight takes e5. And d takes e. Now, this is extremely sharp variation for white, but you can have minimum knowledge and play it. Minimum knowledge. Only knowledge you have to have. The reason why this variation also sharp is because black plays c6, and white must sacrifice that bishop on b5. White cannot move that bishop. For instance, if bishop just moves back, then white has bad game. After queen a5 check, that's another case of violation of main principles. Black takes queen out in the early stage, but that is okay because there is a concrete reason behind it. And after knight c3, queen takes to e5, followed by d5 for black, and white has bad position. So, which means white cannot move the bishop. Then white should play knight c3, c takes b, and knight takes e4. It looks like white has nothing for a piece, but white has one pawn and black has extreme difficulties developing the pieces. This variation is known in theory as very sharp, was known for a long time, and now it's known that is bad variation for white because they found a way for black to defend successfully. So main move is d5, e takes the en passant, and knight f6. But we don't want to go through all these variations because that's not the purpose of our lecture today. So now let's go back to position where black played f5. And so you saw one option, d4. Then you get to very complicated and very sharp position. It's for one type of players. For people who don't want any part of it, they just want to get out of the opening and have reasonably stable position. Then you go d3 for those players. Then you go just simply d3, and when black takes on e4, you take back on e4, and you have stable position, and that's how it's going to be. You are not going to have any advantage. Well, with a knight on g8 here. You are not going to have any advantage because black is going to develop simply knight f6 followed by bishop c5. Position is going to be equal. This is second approach. The third approach is for people who know the modern theory and who know what the best moves are in this position and how to fight for advantage. And they don't need to they don't need me to tell them anything what to do in this opening. So I just gave you, that wasn't about Ruy Lopez, and that wasn't about some concrete variation. This was about the way we look at certain position, and you have to have a sense when game may become very sharp, and if you are not comfortable with it and you don't know much about this variation, you must find an easy way out of it. Well, I've been studying openings and doing research in chess theory for over 35 years. And even I, sometimes when I play, I get into the twilight zone. I get in twilight zone, and which means that I get somewhere that position is not very familiar to me. And I don't, well then obviously I take the easy way out. I stay away from complications because it's not going to be the fair battle. If I play some variations and I don't know the consequences of it, and my opponent is well prepared, I don't want to get in there. It doesn't happen very often, once in a great while, but but I spent that much time in studying opening theory. But if you get somewhere if you find something that you don't like and may get very sharp, quickly get out of there. One example we want to look at is Queen's Gambit declined, which normally is considered as quiet opening. But after d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, black plays c5. Now, you may simply play c takes d, expecting your opponent to play e takes d, and then we get a relatively quiet position of Tarrasch defense. But when you play c takes d, and I don't recommend you to play this move, even though this is the best move for white. The reason why I will not recommend you, actually I should say I will not recommend you if you don't know all the consequences and exactly how to play this position. You have to either play it 100% accurately or not play it at all. After c takes d, your opponent may play c takes d. Now, whether you want it or not, you are in the middle of very sharp position that requires very precise play from white. Queen takes d4, knight c6, attacking white's queen, and obviously queen has to move, since if pawn takes knight, black will take white's queen. So in this position, queen is going back to d1, black plays e takes d, and best move for white is queen takes d5. Now, we talked about it on our other tapes that it's not a good idea to develop your queen in early stage. In this position, we did not just develop the queen in early stage for white. We made 3 moves with this queen. After queen takes d5, black will play bishop d7. This position still favors white, but then you have to learn a lot of sub-variations, how to continues, because if white does not play correctly, they can quickly get in trouble. Let me give you a quick example. Knight f3, knight f6, queen d1. I'm making so far the best moves for white. Now black plays bishop c5, e3, queen e7, bishop e2, and now black castles long. And when you castle with white, black can go g5. Now here black is trying quickly organize attack on your king, and if you don't defend correctly, you may be in a very, very difficult situation. So 2 choices you have: either learn it to details or don't enter it at all. So that's why the second option, I would recommend what you're going to do when this happens, and if you don't want to enter it. It's again all this tape and all these ideas I'm developing it for you lazy players, and we have a lot of you here. d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, c5. So then you immediately realize that you may get into very sharp position and immediately have to change the phase of the game. So then you should play e3. Now there is nothing black can do to enter very sharp and complicated opening. So what they will have to do, knight c6, knight f3, knight f6. You see, this is the most common position that can happen from queens, most quiet position that can happen. You see this, we have absolute symmetry, and it's your move. We're not going to go into details. There are many ways to play here, and we are not discussing how to play a game of chess. So the topic is how to avoid complications in the openings that you are not prepared for.